Hello, Course 3, and welcome to Lesson 89, Solving Problems with Two Unknowns by Graphing. So if you didn't get that picture there, we're going to be graphing today. Make sure you have some graph paper or that you're able to create some grid paper on your notebook. We're going to start with this simple problem here with two variables, 2x plus y equals 3. And I want you to remember or recall the three ways to graph this equation. Okay, the first way that we have talked about in graphing this equation is to come up with a table of values. This is something you have been doing for a while. So what we're going to do is we're going to choose three values for x, and we are going to plug them in to figure out what y is going to be. So if we rewrite our equation, however, this time when we rewrite our equation, we are going to plug in a -1 here. Right? We will then use our order of operations and solve an equation the way we know how. So 2 times -1 is a -2. -2 plus y equals 3. How do we get y all by itself? We are going to add 2 to both sides. So these 2's will zero out. Y is then going to be equal to 5. So when x is -1, y is 5. We have solved our first one and gotten our first value that we were missing. Okay, we're going to continue to do this for each of the values that we would like to use. So our next value that we have chosen is a +1. So when we plug in our +1, 2 times 1 is a different color. 2 times 1 is 2 plus y equals 3. How are we going to get y all by itself? By subtracting your 2 from both sides. 2 minus 2 is 0. Y is all by itself. 3 minus 2 is 1. So your y value when x is 1 is y. Or sorry, is 1. And our last one we are going to complete here is going to be our 2 value that we have down there. So when we plug a 2 in, what is our y? So our first step is to multiply. 2 times 2 is 4 plus y equals 3. How do we get y all by itself? We have to get rid of that 4, and it is being added, so we need to subtract. And 4 minus 4 zeroes out. We are left with a y on the left side. 3 minus 4, remember we're subtracting. We can add the opposite. So they are different signs, so subtract them and take the sign of the larger number. So when x is 2, y is going to be -1. Okay, so this is one way to graph a line. We now have 3 points. On our graph, we're going to put those 3 points, -1, 5, 1, 1, 2, -1. Okay, these are our 3 points that we need to graph. So we will go -1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, to the right 1 and up 2, and to the right 2, down 1. Okay. Hopefully I got all my points right. Did you guys check them? Oh, there's my wrong point. It's not supposed to be 1, 2. It is supposed to be 1, 1. I knew you could do it. Okay, so there's our first line using a table of values. Now the second option that we have for this equation, 2x plus y equals 3, and graphing it, is to set up a x and y intercept. Okay, so we are going to see when x equals 0 what y is, and when y equals 0 what x is. So in this problem here, 2 times 0 plus y equals 3. So when we multiply 2 times 0, we're going to get 0 plus y equals 3. And obviously 0 plus y means just y, so y is equal to 3. So when x is 0, y is 3. We will do the same thing, except for this time we are going to plug in our 0 for y. Okay, when we plug in that 0 for y, just keep in mind that anything plus 0 is going to be itself. So when we solve for x, we're going to have to divide by 2. Divide by 2, x is equal to 3/2, or 1.5. So we now have 2 points that we can graph, 0, 3 and 1.50. So we'll put those up here in green, 0, 3 and 1.50. These are our intercepts. Okay, so 0, 3 is going to be located 0, 1, 2, 3. And 1.50 is going to be located there. So you can see with those 2 points, we can create a line. This blue line was a bad example. This is one. Should have been straighter. But you can see that the line is exactly the same. 2 different ways to graph it. Now the last and final way to graph this line is the most complex way, but it also makes it the easiest for graphing, because a lot of times you're going to see your equation in this form, which is called slope intercept form. So you need to keep in mind that everything I'm writing down, you should be writing down. That's not an exception. Okay, we've got to keep practicing these skills. So when we have y equals mx plus b in slope-intercept form, it's very, very simple to graph. I'm telling you that. I'm hoping that you're listening to me and you are thinking that this is a great idea, just like I am. So if we want to have it in slope-intercept form, you can see we need to get y all by itself. So right here, we got to get y all by itself. So in order to get y by itself, it is being increased by 2x. So we need to do the inverse operation, and we need to subtract by 2x. And if we do that to one side, we must do it to the other so that they are balanced, okay? 2x minus 2x is 0. Y is going to be equal to a negative 2x plus 3. So now you can see that our m, which is equal to our slope, is a negative 2. And our b, which is equal to our y-intercept, okay, that we already found that plugging that 0 in for x, but you can see that our y-intercept is a positive 3. So when we use these 2 forms of information, we can graph a line. So we're going to start, I'm going to graph this one in red. We're going to start with our y-intercept whenever we're graphing an equation in slope-intercept form. So we're going to go up 3 on our y-axis, and we're going to put a point. And then our slope up there, which says is a negative 2, that means from here we need to either go negative slope. We either need to go up and left or down and right. Okay, so we're going to go up. Okay, and here if it is a negative 2, we're going to go 2 over 1 so that we can turn it into a fraction. So we're going to go up 1, 2, and over 1. Or we could go down 2 and over 1. But what you can see is that we create the same exact line 3 different times. So 3 different ways we can draw that line. And that's exactly what we're going to be using today in our lesson. What our lesson is today, went a little too far, is we're actually going to be given a problem like this one. Theo is thinking of 2 numbers. He says that the sum of the numbers is 6. He also says that one number is 10 more than the other number. What are the 2 numbers? Solve the system of equations by graphing. So you've never heard of this term, but 2 equations put together with a brace like this is called a system of equations. Okay, so we're going to have to graph the system of equations. And the easiest way to graph them is your choice. I mean, you have to make that decision. When I look at the first one, I would say that the easiest way to graph my first equation is using your x and y intercepts because there's no coefficients, okay? So if we plug a 0 in for x, 0 plus y equals 6, that means that y is going to be equal to 6. If we plug a 0 in for x, or for y, x plus 0 equals 6, that means x is going to be 6. So now we have found our first equation. Easiest way to graph it, remember you have to make that choice. X is 0, y is 1, 2, 3, 4, let's go by 2s, 2, 4, 6. Okay, so I'm going by 2s on my graph. Just remember you can make your own scale. My horizontal axis by 2s then would put me at 6, 2, 4, 6, 0. So now I have a new line. Okay, I'm going to, very important that these lines are straight. You will see why in a moment, but make sure you have a straight edge. Mrs. Florin is just using her talent, which is not a great choice. When we go on to the next equation, you can see we have y equals x plus 10. This looks very similar to y equals mx plus b. So the first thing you should do is pick out your m. What is it? What's in front of that x? Well, whenever there isn't anything in front of your x, we're going to call that a 1. So 1, which would equal 1 over 1, is your slope. Okay, our b is right here. Okay, it is equal to a plus 10. So when we are calculating our slope, or when we are graphing this line, remember we first want to put on our y-intercept. So remember my scale is going by 2s. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Okay, there is my 10. Okay, and then from there I need to use my slope. And if I have a 1 over 1 and it is positive, I need to either go up and to the right or down and left. I either need 2 positives or 2 negatives. So from here I am going to go up 1 to the left 1. Okay, so up 1 to the left 1. And I could continue to do this for a very long time, okay? Or I could go, I'm sorry, I did the wrong one. We don't want a negative slope, we want a positive slope. Up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1, up 1 to the right 1. Make sure you follow what you're doing and not always what Mrs. Florin is telling you to do. Okay, so here is your new line. You can see that when I graph it, it is going to look like this. And what you can see with these two equations is that they have a very important piece. And that piece is that they are intersecting. Okay, so if we're trying to find a solution, the solution is going to be where the two lines are going to intersect. So if we have this solution here, we can easily find that point. And it is going to be a negative 2. Remember, I'm going by 2s. 2, 4, 6, 8. So if you would like to give a solution to this problem, you can put it in point form. So what does that answer? What question does that answer? Well, we wanted to know what the two numbers are. So if we were to take these two numbers and put them back into these two equations, those two numbers should satisfy those two equations. So for example, negative 2 plus 8 should equal 6. And if these are different signs, we're going to subtract and we're going to take the sign of the larger number. So yes, that does work. Okay, for the second one, our y is 8. So 8 is equal to, our x is negative 2 plus 10. Remember, when you add different sign numbers, you are going to subtract them and take the sign of the larger number. So you can see that this point satisfies both of those equations. So the numbers that Theo is thinking of are negative 2 and 8. Great job. And I skipped again. My finger's a little touchy today. You can see these are your practice set problems. You have A, B, and C to complete before tomorrow. Make sure you get these done and make sure you take your time. Remember to always choose the right method for graphing your lines. It makes it a lot easier. Thank you, and you guys have a great day.